Oke, terima kasih. Thank you very much. Salam 24 jam from Bahrain. Today is in the afternoon, Friday. How are you, everybody? Hope everybody is good and healthy. Today we meet for a very interesting and topical discussion. And I feel very honored to be asked to open today's discussion. Introducing, my name is Amelia Anzelin. I'm the coordinator of the Working Group Entrepreneurship, and also I'm the member of Executive Board of IDN Global and President of IDN Diaspora Chapter Bahrain. And today the topic is very interesting. We will talk about the essential cybersecurity, the empowering SMBs with the essential cybersecurity hygiene, the online webinar by Working Group Entrepreneurship by IDN Global. And maybe today I will give the small spiel regarding our topic today. This event will be great opportunity to collect the data to Indonesian entrepreneurs based of Netherlands and globally. This event can help increase the visibility of IDN global working groups and serve as the platform for future collaboration between Indonesian global working group and companies. This event can act as a catalyst for more event and collaboration with other companies owned by Indonesian diaspora worldwide in the future. And also for this event, companies do not have to pay to display their logos as seen above. We encourage members and companies to each country to seek partnership for this event and the future ones. And we hope number of supported by logos will be increased to the future of event. And for the next discussion, I will give the floor to Ms. Wati. The times I give it to you. Thank you. Ms. Wati, time is for you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Amelia, for the introduction.
Welcome.
Distinguished guests, welcome to this webinar, very important webinar. But before we start, we would like to ask Bapak Sulistiawan Wibisono, President IDN Global, to give his opening remarks. Pak Iwan Wibisono.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Wati Hairon, ladies and gentlemen. Salam 24 jam, Ibu Ina Negariawati from the Kementerian, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the speaker, Bapak Ferry Haris, the founder of PIHA. Today, he will share a very thoughtful and a very important, it's very pragmatic skill and knowledge for us to understand, and it's very practicable. Before start, I think I would like to thanks to everyone, especially Ibu Monique Patricia, as part of the BINA, and also Ibu Renu, as part of the Indonesian Diaspora Network, Netherlands. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesian Diaspora Network Global has been around since 2012, and we are here it's been around for 12 years. The first Congress was established in the city of Los Angeles in the United States back in 6 July of 2012. We are here is connecting the dots and expanding the opportunities. So Diaspora Indonesia is not only for Indonesian diaspora who's still holding the Indonesian passport or Indonesian citizenship, but also those who already changed or shift their nationality or their passport to the country where they're residing. So today our session is about the security of our, our life is now pretty much depend on digital in the way we're communicating with each other and in the way we are sourcing knowledge and also do the banking. Now we have no choice. We have to trust the system. But there's been always risks and breaches been happen everywhere. Like in Australia, even my bank, my private bank, and also my private insurance for the health insurance has been breached by a third person. They are still all the customers' privacy data. Like in Australia, I believe in most of the countries in Europe and United States, and also in Indonesia is coming soon, that the data that's been privacy is including name, address, and also the date of birth. So if someone already hold these basic data, they can apply for anything like a gas bill, power bill, electricity bill, even for accessing our data with the government. So hopefully this session will give you some insight, more technical and more pragmatic for everyone. And this is very important for our everyday life. I would like to say thanks to Pak Ferry for sharing your knowledge and giving time for the diaspora for us as a diaspora Indonesian diaspora network. Thank you and back to you, Mbak Wati Khairon from Bina.
Thank you so much, Bapak Iwan Bisono, for your remarks. Next, I would like to ask Ibu Ani Negriawati, from the Director of Public Diplomacy, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, to give her the opening remarks. Ibu Ani.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ibu Wati Khairun, the Chief Program Officer of BINA, as the moderator. And I would like to greet all of you here. Bapak Sulistiawan Bibisono as the President of the IDN Global, Ibu Monique Patricia. I think she's the initiator for our webinar or our forum this evening, Indonesian time, Western Indonesian time. And then I also have the pleasure to get to know Bapak Ferry Haris, the CEO and founder of FEHA International Consulting. And salam 24 jam to everyone, members of this IDN Global, wherever you are. Salam 24 jam. My name is Ani Nigeriawati. I'm the Director for Public Diplomacy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And my directorate, my division is responsible for the management of the Indonesian diaspora. But we are not alone here, because we have other relevant ministries as well who are responsible for the governance of managing the Indonesian diaspora. Maybe I would like to give a general overview of the progress that the central government is right now doing for the information of the IDN Global and its members, apart from the topic that we are going to discuss this evening, I mean today. So for your information, currently we are reviewing the definition of Indonesian diaspora. As we are currently referring to the presidential decree number 76 year 2017 with regard to the definition of masyarakat Indonesia di luar negeri. And currently we are reviewing the definition of diaspora and the category of Indonesian diaspora itself to review, to make it better, to make it getting to what we are targeting in terms of giving the right definition of diaspora itself. And then the most important aspects are about giving the facilities to Indonesian diaspora, because our position is quite clear and quite firm that we don't recognize dual citizenship. Therefore, we are currently reviewing the how we can increase, how can we enhance facilities to our diaspora. And recently, 2 weeks ago, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we signed an agreement or perjanjian kerjasama. It's like a cooperation agreement with Bank Mandiri and Bank BNI with regard to utilizing the diaspora card or Kartu Masyarakat Indonesia Luar Negeri for Indonesian diaspora who are not Indonesian citizens to open a bank account in BNI and Bank Mandiri. Currently, we still cannot do the digital or the mobile banking system for opening the bank account. So those applicants should go to the office of BNI, let's say in the Netherlands, it's in Amsterdam, to open bank account. But for those living in the Netherlands, because I assume many of you are residing in the Netherlands, for those Indonesian diaspora who are not Indonesian citizens and who are the holder of Kartu Masyarakat Indonesia Luar Negeri or diaspora card, you can go to the BNI representative office to open a bank account from BNI. I think this information would be very much beneficial, would be very much helpful and useful to the members of IDN Global, especially those who are not the holder of Indonesian passports or who are not, Indonesian citizens. Later, I will ask my colleague here to send the video link about the procedure, about the flow on how to open the banking account in BNI and Bank Mandiri using the Kartu Masyarakat Indonesia di Luar Negeri. Maybe Pak Gofar or Ibu Anggi can send it through the chat column. The video that shows the process or the flow, how to open the bank account in Bank BNI and Bank Mandiri using the diaspora card. That is the update that I would like to share in the beginning of our webinar, because we are very much sure this information is very much useful and helpful for all of you. And we do believe as well with this cooperation, it could also facilitate better and more smooth business transaction between the Indonesian diaspora and their, let's say, their business partners in Indonesia. Since you can have the bank account from Indonesian banking companies. So we do believe with this cooperation, it could also facilitate a better and more fluid business transaction between the Indonesian business people in the Netherlands with your counterparts or your partners in Indonesia. In relation to our topic with regard to empowering SMBs with essential cybersecurity hygiene, we do believe that the information that later you will get from Pak Ferry Haris for sure will help the Indonesian diaspora who are especially those who are the members of Business Indonesia Netherlands Association, BINA, to get to know the challenges, and I do hope Pak Ferry could probably share your expertise on how to prevent what is it, like the digital use of e-commerce, of any business transaction using e-application by our Indonesian diaspora who are having, who have business, to protect the security of the application, and to give the feel of security when they are doing the business transaction. Because I think we also have the what is it, like the hope that our small and business and medium business enterprises in the Netherlands to grow their business in cooperation as well in collaboration with the Indonesian Embassy in The Hague. The Indonesian Embassy in The Hague right now is also they manage the Indonesia House in Amsterdam, and I've been following the information and the report from our embassy in The Hague that Indonesian House is now also used to display Indonesian products, and also they serve as the like a meeting point for the Indonesian business people, Indonesian, the diaspora, as well as the Ministry of Trade and other relevant stakeholders. I think utilizing these facilities is very much important for our Indonesian diaspora who have small and medium enterprises in Netherlands, to also collaborate with our embassy in The Hague, especially with our trade attaché in The Hague, to promote your products, and can also serve as the aggregator, as the facilitator and the connector for our export products from Indonesia to penetrate the market in the Netherlands. So I think cybersecurity protection is very much important, Pak Ferry, for you to share to the members of Business Indonesia Netherlands Association in this very important occasion, in order for them to upscale the skills and the knowledge about how to protect the business. Okay. I think that's all from me, and I do hope that the discussion today can be productive and can help everyone attending this forum to get a better understanding about the importance of having protection, with later on Pak Ferry Haris and the other speakers could share their knowledge to all of you here. Thank you very much, Pak Iwan Wibisono, as well as Ibu Wati for your initiative, Ibu Monique Patricia, the founder of this Business Indonesia Netherlands Association, and all of you here. Once again, thank you very much for giving me the time to say a few words in this very important forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Ani. This is a very inspiring and also very deep discussion, because about this topic is quite famous but a little bit sensitive, regarding the cybersecurity. You know, the Indonesian situation and also the global situation is not too secure to our private life and also for the globally life. But before we continuing, I hope we can take a picture for a moment. Maybe Ms. Tria can help us to take a picture. Okay, Ms. Tria or Ms. Wati?
If everybody can turn on their video for a moment, then Emma will make a picture.
Okay,
Don't
please,
for-
everyone
don't-
get ready. Okay.
Don't forget to smile.
Okay, we'll count it from 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. One more. 4, 3, 2, 1. Smile. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, maybe we can continue to another speakers, but I still curious about what Miss Ani will next topic must be more deeply together with Mr. Ferry. Yeah, we will do another chapter. Okay, Mr. Ferry, time for you.
All right. So, salam 24 jam for everybody. My name is Ferry. I'm based here in Amsterdam. So, luckily, we have a very sunny day today compared to yesterday. So, I think it's also a blessing to have this event today. Maybe I'll just start with sharing my presentation. So, just tell me if you can see it. Yeah?
This looks good.
All right, that's good. Thank you. All right, then. By the way, let's make this discussion interactive as much as possible. So if you have any questions, you can always interrupt me, or you can just ask a question directly on the chat, and then Wati will help me, guide this discussion. All right. So let's start with the moment that I suggest the topic. To be very honest, it's very hard for me. It's very sensitive for me to bring this topic, especially for, I call it, non-security people. All right. So let's start with that disclaimer. The reason being is because compared to those who understand the field, compared to those who understand the topic, even if I talk to my parents, right, the only thing that they talk about when they hear about cybersecurity is someone got hacked, data breach, data leak, and so on and so forth, right? But in today's discussion, we are not going to cover everything at once because it's just impossible. It took me 15 years to work in this field, and even until now, there are still, something new popping up, something completely different from last year or something similar from last year. So we are not going to be able to uncover everything in one event, right? But what I want to emphasize here is actually, despite of whatever you hear on the news or what you believe it's true in the news, there are certain things that actually we, as what I call as a normal people, can do without going through the hassle of understanding every single bits of cybersecurity. All right. I hope we set the boundaries very clear. So before we go further, so my name is Ferry. Like I said, I'm a founder of Freha International Consulting. At the moment, we are a cybersecurity advisory company. Primarily, our clients are in the Europe area, mostly Western, by the way, and then also in the US. Starting this year, we are also shifting ourselves to be a tech company as well. I will discuss about it a bit later. And then we also will start entering Middle East and Asia market. Simply because, hey, I'm Indonesian. I should start with where I came from. So, come back to my introduction. Cybersecurity is something that you will never have enough time, enough resources just to discuss about it, right? Cybersecurity is a very broad subject. It covers technical part, but also cover non-technical part. It's very, very broad. So whenever you talk about cybersecurity and then you only talk about hacking, data leak, it's just one piece of the discipline. The problem with cybersecurity is that people always perceive this topic differently. Whether you are a big company, NGO, educational organization, small company, or a solopreneur, you always perceive cybersecurity differently. Sometimes it's also related to your cultural background. So for example, when we are in Europe, I think most of companies, whether they are big or small, they tend to try to give their employees a company device, whether it's a laptop, a phone, and kind of stuff, right? But then, like it or not, somehow I found that when I visit Indonesia or even Southeast Asia in that sense, entrepreneurs there, they think or they believe that their employees should bring their own devices to work in their company. So the cultural background and how things work, how the business works, how the business world works in a certain countries will also impact how people perceive cybersecurity, right? Just take an example of that laptop, right? If the company gives all the laptops to all their employees, it means that they have to deal with central controls. Everything is locked down centrally, everything is monitored centrally. But then those in countries where they believe that everybody should, bring their own devices, people should, feel lucky that they got a job, then the responsibility, the accountability to make everything secure is also falls under their employees. Whether it's true or not, whether it's right or wrong, that's not the discussion of today's discussion, okay? And then the biggest problem that I have right now as a cybersecurity professional, and also why I'm kind of hesitate to bring this topic since the beginning of the year, is because whatever news about cybersecurity that you hear, it's just the tip of the iceberg. But then that news blow up so much, leading to everybody believe that cybersecurity is all about that. Hacking this, hacking that, data breach in point A, point B, point C, everywhere people just hear about that. But do you know that if you are not on the news, if you are working in the field like me, there is a bigger piece of the iceberg where you don't see, where things are not end up in the news. Sometimes we call it as dark web, or sometimes we just call it as people's mistake. That by definition is also a data breach or data leak. Let's take an example, all right? So everybody talks about the latest drama, let's just call it drama, okay? About the national data center, yes? And everybody suddenly starts becoming an expert in data breach, how to prevent that. But then every day, people send a copy of their passport through WhatsApp. It's not end up in the news, but by definition, when someone send passport, ID card through WhatsApp, in my field, it is called data leak. it is called data breach. Because by definition, data leak means the data that is accessible to someone who doesn't have the right to have that access. That's the simple definition. It never end up in the news. And guess what? But through our scanning, we've seen a lot of Indonesian passports in the bottom of the iceberg. But yeah, it doesn't end up in the news, right? So most people believe that cybersecurity is just limited to what you hear in the news, and that's also what makes this topic very, very challenging for me to discuss today. But hopefully, at the end of the day, you will see where I'm trying to come from. And then
Pak Haris,
cybersecurity is
Pak Ferry, can I just
yeah.
remind everybody that they can just unmute their audio if they want to ask something or have a discussion point, because Pak Ferry would like to have interaction. And I think I'm going to tell you that I'm one of those who sent passport picture through the WhatsApp, which is really not a good idea. And if you want to do that, put a specimen on it so that people cannot misuse it. Thank you so much, Pak Ferry.
Yes. So put a watermark or try as much possible. If you send by email, for example, if you use official company email address, actually you can time it. So let's say you time it for 1 day. After 1 day, nobody can open that email anymore. That's just a small tip, by the way. By the way, everybody, please don't chase Wati after this, because everybody now know that Wati send her passport through WhatsApp. Okay. All right. Anyway,
I'll delete it.
So compared to many other discipline like civil engineering, that kind of stuff, cybersecurity is actually a new discipline. So it's still moving, it's still growing. It's also one of the things that I kind of like survive for the past 15 years in this area, because every day there's always something new for me to learn, for me to explore, which also means that when we talk about cybersecurity, there is no such thing as a silver bullet to solve everything, right? So if you think that coming to this webinar that I will give you a tool that can solve all the problem, unfortunately, that's not possible. Even the biggest company that I've worked with, like ASML, Bol.com, I think for most of you in Netherlands know how big they are. They also still in their journey in cybersecurity. Okay, so let's start with that premise. The problem also with cybersecurity is everybody talks about cybersecurity, and then everybody talks about the tools. What are the tools I need to do this? What are the tools I need to do that? So it's all about technical perspective. But then, as an entrepreneur, as an owner of small, medium businesses, or even as individuals or solopreneurs, students, maybe professionals, actually our discussion should move to what I call as cyber resilience. And what's the difference? Because when we talk about cybersecurity, although it's wrong, most of the discussion is always talking about the technical part of the security. But then when we talk about cyber resilience, it's about our wholeness, our organization perspective, our personal perspective. And guess what? Whether you like it or not, your data will be breached. It's a guarantee. And this is me just saying it out loud, whether you like it or not, your data will be breached. Whether you know about it, whether you don't know about it, your data is being breached. However, when we talk about cyber resilience, how you move on with your life, how you move on with your daily activities after your data got lost, that is what we want to try to protect. So for example, almost every week, I always get a notification from my scanner in the dark web that some website that I used in the past when I was young, they got hacked, the information got breached. But then when I received that news, if I can calm, relax, then it means that I'm resilient. But if you are panic, then you are not that resilient enough. So what we need to work on, again, as individual, as student, as professional, or as a small business owners, we talk about resiliency in our business, resiliency in our digital life, right? And what does it have to do with the cyber hygiene? It's because most of the discussion that we have, again, in the dark web or on the bright web, if you want to call it, 80% of the issues actually can be solved or can be prevented, not solved, can be prevented by just doing something basic. And that's where the term hygiene comes from. If you do this several simple stuff, most of 80% of the cases will not affect you. So if we focus on this hygiene, and the one that I will share with you is something very practical, very cost efficient, let's call it like that, will, take you far in your measure. And then the rest of the 20%, sure, when your business grows, when your business growing bigger, then yes, we can talk about more advanced, let's say, protections. But for now, if you just do this, 3, actually 80% of the issues out there will be solved. Actually, it's 3 plus 1, right? So for most of you, this is going to be a broken record, but trust me, I do this because until now, I still have to do this, even for bigger companies, by the way. So again, after all this 1 hour, if you forget whatever I said, it's not okay, but it's okay-ish. Just focus on these 3 points. 1, you need to have a strong password, and you always have to activate your multi-factor authentication, whether you like it or not. Number 2.
What is that multi-factor authentication?
Then I'll come back to that, okay?
Okay.
And then number 2, make sure that you always have your software and operating systems up to date. And number 3, data backup and encryption. Remember that I said 3 plus 1? And what is the 1? The 1 is your habit. For example, no matter how clean, how secure your laptop is, what kind of firewall that you use on your devices, on your employees' devices, but if that device is also used by your employees, your team members, or yourself even to access, I'm sorry, pornographic website, then there's no point. So the plus 1 is about your habit. Most of the items that come in, whether to your website, whether to your server, whether to your personal devices or for your work devices, comes from your habit. Do you visit a proper website? Or do you use the same device that you use for work for doing something else? Online gambling, maybe? Or downloading pirated movies? That's part of the habit that will break all these 3 items. All right. But then, since most of you, yes?
Sorry, just talking about a habit, there's a question from Ibu Devi that, for instance, if you send your passport voluntarily, then it won't be a data leak. as we already give permission to others to access it. I mean, this can also be something like a habit of us, like, oh, do you need my passport? Okay, I'll send it to you. What is your reaction
The
on
answer
that?
is yes and no. So if the person that asks you to give your passport is a government official with a necessary, let's say, rationale, then yes, you give a consent that you give them your ID. That's true. But the question is, any sensible government agency on the receiving end, one, they will never use WhatsApp. Number two, when they receive your copy, actually there is a mechanism behind it that the system will automatically blur whatever sensitive information. It's just want to confirm that yes, it is Wati as what she claimed. Even if the officer can see the copy of someone's passport, for example, it only time limited. Let me give an example. Have you opened a bank account or any account that asks you to take a picture with your ID card?
Yes, many
Like you
times.
take a picture and then you put the ID card next to it. Yes, below yourself, whether you open a bank account or whatever. So if your counterpart is doing it properly, there is a masking technique behind it, which means that the technology designed to read your passport or your ID card is designed in such a way that the machine is the only one who can read that is a valid ID. When the human behind the machine try to see your copy of your passport, actually they will see only blur items. If you do it properly. But most of the time, normal people, small businesses, they don't do that. And that's the reason why, by definition, it's already data breach. Because for a purpose of, let's say, opening a bank account, the ID is only to confirm that you are as what you claim. The person behind the machine doesn't need to know exactly your name, your ID number, your birth date, your home address, your religion. No, the purpose is just to open an account. And to open that account, they only need what is your name and whether you have a valid ID card or not. And if you want to cross-check that with your national ID database, then they just need your number. That's it. So the other information will be blurred automatically. If you don't do that, if you collect information just for the sake of collecting, that's by definition is the data has been leaked.
So yeah,
I
it's
hope
a
that
very
explains.
very good. We have to change our habit and really be aware of the end recipient of our
Correct.
documents.
That's why when we talk about, okay, but Ferry, that's a very expensive technique to do. Yes, okay, fine. Then if you want to do that, still, one, try as much possible not to send this via WhatsApp, because then it will end up in someone else's phone. That's number one. You can use email, and then that email, actually you can set with a time limit. And then before you send it out, put the watermark for a purpose. Yes, it's not a bulletproof, but at least that is something that we can use to improve. If our ID leaked somewhere, people having difficulties to use it because there's a watermark on it, or you kind of like make it blur certain things. And
Pak
that's
Andre
just
said that Pak Andre said there's a safe messenger like Signal that can't be breached.
no. The problem is any messenger is always taking about two sides of the coin, right? The sender and the recipient. Yes, the data travel in between is encrypted, sure. But how do you know for sure that the recipient end will protect your data? That's number one. Number two, let's be honest. Nowadays, who use Signal? How many of them? Yeah, okay, Wati use it, but then how many of them? How many of let's say normal people actually use Signal? Just imagine if you have a business and then you said, okay, send some information to us, but then for that, please install a Signal, and then only then we can do transaction. Do you think that is something that people would like to do with your business? All right, sometimes we also need to be pragmatic. Yeah. So let me continue, and then we can discuss about it further. Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, for most of you, this will be a broken record because unfortunately, most people will still do this or not do this. So instead of telling you what you should do, the rest of this presentation will talk about what are the myths or what are the excuse most people say, at least to me, why they don't do these three. And then I will do a different priority. Yes. So start with number 3, then number 2, and then number 1, because it will relate to the demo at the end. All right. So bear with me. I'll try to catch up as well. So let's start with number 3, data backup and encryption. Most people will say to me, Ferry, nowadays I work in the cloud. I use Google Workspace. I use Microsoft 365. Then everything will be fine, right? For most cases, yes. But do you know that this year only there are some online data that is not backed up by Microsoft? Last year also Google Workspace have the same issue. So just because you are working in the cloud and then they promise that everything is backed up, remember, have you ever read the terms and conditions of the service? If you pay for premium version of Google Workspace, yes, there is an SLA that is guaranteed to a certain extent that your data will be backed up. But if you are using free Gmail, there is no guarantee. The same with Microsoft. So if your business rely on free Gmail, free Hotmail, and whatever free, make sure that you read the terms and conditions. Make sure that you are comfortable with that. Because if something happened to your account, it is very clear stated in the terms and conditions that you cannot do anything. So my advice is always, whichever cloud provider that you use, if you can identify which one or which documents were very important for your business, maybe it's related to financial information, because in some countries you need to keep it for 5 years or 7 years, just have another backup. Don't rely everything on your cloud, especially if you are using the free service. Another one that I always hear is, yeah, but Ferry, I also do that, so I'm fine. I back up all my data. I have a separate hard disk, an offline hard disk, and I do that for many years. Yes, that's a good exercise. So that's a compliment from point number 1. But then, are you sure that you still can open your files? I don't know about you, but at least I'm not that young anymore, so I know there is a big difference between the email format of Outlook 10 years ago and today. So if you still have Outlook email and then save in the .eml from 10 years ago, most likely you cannot open it today. Excel file. There are cases that you can still open Excel file from 7 years ago, but there are cases, especially if you use a lot of macros back then, you cannot open it anymore. So whenever you go and then you said, okay, I'm doing backup for my business, make sure that actually you are backing up your data, your information, your customer information in a format that you know for sure it will stay. Like, for example, in the PDF format, or in a text format, or in CSV format. If you use a lot of macros, then most likely 5 years from now, you won't be able to open it. And then related to encryption, most of the time, people tell me, yeah, Ferry, I buy my new laptop. I buy everything legit. I got a original package from the vendor. Then the encryption is automatically part of it, right? Then, so if I lose my laptop, then everything will be secure because everything is encrypted. Then I'm fine. Okay, so now, after this call, please check what is the version of Windows that you use on your laptop, if you use Windows. Do you know if you buy a cheap laptop and then you use Windows 10, the home version, actually encryption is not included? So if you use Windows 10, Windows 11, but then the home version, because Windows has 3, Windows Home, Windows Pro, and Windows Enterprise. So if you buy the home one because you want to go for the cheapest one, you say, yeah, I'm a small business owner. I only buy this laptop just to type here, type there. Then Windows 10 Home is enough. It's not encrypted. It's not included. If you use Mac OS, yes, encryption is there. If you turn it on. So if you are using Mac OS, go to your settings and then search for the word file vault. Yeah, check whether it's turned on or not. By default, it's off. So just by doing certain things, you can already improve your resiliency. You don't need a fancy tools because in the modern OS, in the modern system, everything is there, but you just need to activate it, or at least you buy the right one. The same discussion with Ferry, what is the best antivirus in the market at the moment? And I always said, if you use Windows and it's original Windows, Microsoft Defender is more than enough. Why do you need to buy a new one? It saves you money because you already buy the Windows, it's original, it's legit, and it comes with Windows Defender. So as long as you keep it up to date, as long as you keep it on, you don't turn it off, it's more than enough. What's important is your habit. Because even if you use the most expensive antivirus in the world, but if every day you try to go to forbidden website, doing something illegal, then yeah, it won't help you. But for most cases, you will be just fine just using whatever comes with your OS. You don't need to buy a new extra. Your business can save a lot of money just by doing this. So again, remember, if you work in the cloud, that's great, but make sure that you also have a second backup. Number 2, if you want to back up to a separate disk, whether it's an external hard disk or even USB drive, make sure that you back them up in a format that you know it will stay longer. Number 3, if you use a modern OS operating system, whether it's Windows or Mac OS, just make sure that these 2 items that I mentioned on the screen is actually turned on. As simple as that. Because many cases they are turned off by default.
Ferry,
And yes, please.
there is a question from Pa Aryo.
Sure.
His question is about something global, cybersecurity global standard, but also in regards to encryption. He's asking like, how is the global cybersecurity standard applicable to multiple countries with different regulations of maximum encryption level? For instance, country A has a maximum of 1024, country B, and so forth. How do these countries interact when each has its own standard?
So at the end of the day, most of the standard that we talk about have a minimum requirements, right? So the different level of encryption in what Pa Aryo mentioned earlier is mostly about the strength of the key. But as long as you know the key, or as long as you get the key, then different countries can still read it. So underneath it, the encryption methodology is the same. What makes it different is typically the length of the key. So in terms of reading it, as long as the other country knows that, okay, my country use as much, and you got that key, then they will be able to read it.
Actually,
I think,
my question is not about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Okay.
you read my question carefully,
Me and
because it's a
I do.
maximum. So if country A is maximum to 1024, let's say, and country B is 2048, that means the country A cannot do encryption larger than 1024, because that they're gonna violate their own regulation. So yes,
Okay, so
the key, that's one thing, but that's not really my question, because
okay.
these countries, they have the different maximum encryption level, so they
Okay.
cannot exceed that.
Okay.
While
So
other countries have higher level of encryption. So
okay.
how do you have this
All right.
confusion to make it work?
All right. So let me ask you a different question. Which country that only allows maximum 1024?
I'm not talking about specific, because that's not really the point. I'm just throwing out here a situation where when there are these 3 different countries with different level, it could be something even larger. Maybe the maximum is no longer 1024. It could be something larger, but that's not really the point. The point is, if you have 3 different level of maximum encryption level, then how do you make sure that these 3 countries still able to communicate? Because otherwise they cannot, right?
Yeah, but that's my point, and that's the reason why I asked the question, because most of the time, and that's why maybe I'm wrong. When countries define a rules, they define the minimum. They never set the maximum.
Okay, I can tell you an example. Russia, they have this regulation of maximum. Maybe it's no longer in place, but assuming it's still in place, then how do you deal with it? I'm not. That's why I'm reluctant to mention specific country names, because that's not really the point here. I just want to make sure that we have like something that we can use to move forward. Because if, let's say, if we increase our level of encryption, so we able to communicate with these countries or comply with the other countries' regulation, then that means we're violating our own regulation or their or everybody else's. That's really the point here. So how do you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And in that case, and I know you won't like this answer, is that my recommendation is then you don't do business with that country. The reason being is because
not doing business with Russia is going to be bad for Indonesia, because we have strong relationship with them. I'm just saying here.
I'm sure, and that's the reason why I said, you won't you won't like this answer, because at the end of the day, it's part of the risk that you have to take, the risk that you need to calibrate, right? Do you want to live? Do you want to work with a party who is using a lower standard than you? If yes, then the only way to do is to comply with that, which means that there is no other way. There is no technical solution for that, Mr. Aryo. And that's the problem. Like, for example, right? For so many years, Amazon always give opportunity or always give a freedom to users to use AES 128 or AES 256 for their disk encryption. Everybody knows that by definition, if you use AES 128, it's easily breakable. But then Amazon also tried to be very, very liberal. Okay, some people still want to use 128, so okay, fine. But what did they get? Actually, Amazon gets more breach. And that's the reason why, I think starting end of last year, Amazon said, okay, guys, we are just cut off this AES 128. If you still want to use AES 28, then you find another provider. We as Amazon, we cannot provide it, because we know for sure that if we keep using AES 128 instead of AES 256, which is the current normal standard everywhere as a minimum, instead of FIPS 40, then you have to live with it. So if you have three countries, one is with the minimum requirements, the other one is maximum, yeah. At the end of the day, it's just about risk assessment. Is the risk working with that lower standard worth? If yes, go ahead. And then add some precautions next to it. If not, then with all due respect, thank you very much. And the example is exactly that AWS.
Yeah, because that leads to my other question because of the security perimeter design. So how do you have these differences to be applicable in global level? You cannot just adjust one part of your security perimeter design just to be able to do business with one country or another. You have to have some kind of standard that applies globally, right? So how do you have this?
No.
Like, let's say a large organization like United Nations or NATO, yeah. So something that we can learn from.
Yeah, for large companies, and by the way, this is getting very, very technical and getting very confusing for most people. So I'll just keep it short, and then I'll get back to that. But for now, let's put it like this. I work with a lot of large organizations. You know ASML, you know BOLD. They also work with so many different parties, so many different countries. The only thing that I can say right now is they segment, which means that if they have to deal with, let's say, China, we know that the standard in China is different from Europe. The only thing that we can do from a security point of view is we segment those data that is coming in and coming out towards China, which means it has to stay in one segment. This segment can never go to other segment. The same with people traveling with their devices. Then we will block them up, because then those that are traveling to these countries, so because it's not just China, by the way, we will lock them up. The technique, plenty of them.
So you're basically talking about firewall, right?
No, firewall is the least of technique that we can do, because firewall itself is not enough. So if you ever heard about zero trust principles, it's not just firewall. It's many things, including access management, including encryption, including even locking down all access to certain traffic network. Firewall is just the least that you can do. And it takes a lot of money, by the way. So
okay, yeah, because you earlier mentioned that Windows Defender was more than enough. So that's kind of
For most
confusing.
people. For most people. I'm saying Windows Defender, for most people, for generic purposes, is more than enough. If you are already talking about doing business with a certain type of a country or business that requires more advanced setup, then I think we have to discuss it separately, because I'm happy to entertain all that questions. But then I think for most of us here who are owning small businesses, the solution that I will give is not something that you can afford. Yeah,
To
can
see
we
the
agree
time
on that,
constraints,
Wati?
yes, can we? Maybe that's a good for next workshop.
All right,
group.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, then
Okay, please continue, Pak.
prepare all the money that you have. Yes, I'm very happy if if we can talk about how large companies do that. All right, and number two is about software update and patches, right? So most of the time, we always postpone to update our phone, to update our devices, because we said, everything's still working. Like, why do I need to update my phone? Why do I need to update my laptop? Everything is fine. Always remember that when a vendor or when a company who create a device or a software, when they update something, it's not just about they delivering new features. They also try to, put a patch on a whole. And most of the time, and this is a problem, most of the time, whether it's a critical patch or not critical patch, for most people like us, there is no difference. Because everything is just a pop-up. Hey, there's a new version. Please update. Hey, there is a new version. Please update. And for most people like us who always said, I'm busy, I'll just postpone, right? Because it's just another update. The problem is, in the current world, sometimes the update is literally just a simple update. But nowadays, actually people update their software, update their devices, because there is already an issue somewhere out there. They call it as critical patch, but towards us, towards our eyes, just, hey, there's another update, right? And that's the reason why I always say, if possible, never postpone, never delay any of your updates, whether it's your operating system, whether your Windows, your Mac, or your applications, like especially your browser, right? And in many cases, yeah, Ferry, can you see? I have so many tabs open on my web browser. So if I update this web browser, then I will lose everything, right? Again, most modern browser that you are using right now, like Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, Brave, Vivaldi, when they update, actually they will keep all your tabs. So you don't need to worry about losing your work in a way. But the main idea is, please don't postpone the update, because we never know what's happened out there. Because again, towards us as a user, everything looks the same. A simple advice is try at least once a week, you restart your laptop. You restart your phone or restart your tablet. The reason being is because many applications are not as good as telling people, hey, we have an update. But then when you restart your devices, when it boots up again, the first thing that it do is trying to check with the main server, is there an update or not? So most applications, yes, they have a very good pushing mechanism that, hey, there's an update, please update. But there are, and many, by the way, applications who are also not really good in that sense. They only push that there is a new update is when you restart or when you reboot or when you shut down and then you turn it on again. So if you are the type of a person, type of an entrepreneur who never or ever restart your device, I hope after this webinar, the simplest thing that you can do is just restart your device. At least once a week during your weekend, while, I don't know, whatever you do or over the weekend, you just restart it. And by the way, at home, at least in my home, updating my phone and my wife's phone is actually not my job, not my wife's job. It's our children's job. They are 9 and 6. They make it as a game. So every time they wake up in the morning, the first thing that they do, let's check Papa's phone and let's check Mama's phone, check if there's an update or not. I'm using iPhone, my wife using Android. We're never afraid of losing any updates on our phones because that's our children's job. Again, this is not child abuse, or it's just a game that we do at home. It also it's also good because, you know, okay, like it or not, we give them devices as well, and without us telling them to update, actually they do update themselves. Okay. And last but not least, strong password. I know this is a very sensitive topic for most people, especially if your company typically have a minimum X characters, have a complex password, change every 3 months. One, changing password every 3 months or every 6 months or every year doesn't make you more secure. Please take that as a note. Yeah, that's number one. Number two, if you have a complex password, but you use it for everything, it's also not secure. So there is no point of having a complex password and change it often, and you believe that it is secure. No. So what's the best way? One, make sure that your password is as long as possible. In the encryption world, the longer it gets, the more difficult it is to break. The more complex it is, but if it is short, it's easier for us to break. Nowadays, to all my team members, I always say to them, if you want to make a password, minimum 16 characters. Yeah, so remember, the longer your password is, actually, the longer it takes for someone to break. Even if you have a complex password, but it's short, it's still easier to break. And when you have that very long password, you don't really need to update it every 3 months. Because I know the first thing that you will do when your company says, we have to change it every 3 months, you will change the last character, correct? I see what is smiling. So if you start with a password Indonesia 1, then the next one will be Indonesia 2. Then after that, Indonesia 3, Indonesia 4, Indonesia 5, dan seterusnya. Right? It's not helping. Okay. Another one. Whenever I tell people, all right, in order to do that, to have that a very complex password and very long and then always unique everywhere you go. So your Facebook password is different from your LinkedIn password. Your LinkedIn password is different from your Gmail password. Use a password manager. And most of the time I will always hear, but I use Google Chrome password manager. You know that when you use Google Chrome and there is a password and then you type in and then there's a notification saying, would you like to remember the password in the browser? Please don't. Why? Number one, actually it's not encrypted. It is stored in a plain text. So if I have access to your browser or someone else have access to your browser, we go to a certain folder, we can see your password in plain text. Plain text means, whatever you write, we can see. Right? That's number one. Number two, like it or not, you use LinkedIn on your laptop, on your PC, on your phone, and on your tablet, and so on and so forth, right? If you rely on Google Chrome Password Manager, either you copy paste, and then after that, you copy paste, and then like, trouble, I don't want to use this anymore. Or after you copy paste, let me send this password to my own email address or to the drive folder, and then I will open it in my iPhone, right? So that I can just copy paste to the LinkedIn app, for example. Am I right? That's a typical habit that I've seen a lot. So please don't. If you want to use Password Manager, use something that is actually working for all your devices, and do not rely on your browser Password Manager. But then most people also say, Password Manager is not safe because I put all my Password Manager there and all my password there. So if they break the Password Manager, then these bad guys knows everything. That's where the last point comes. Use MFA. And that's the part where I say in the beginning, every week, every month, I have a notification from dark web that, hey, Ferry, your account is breached. I'm not worried. Why? Because I know for sure that all my accounts have MFA turned on. So if they know my password, the only thing I just need to do is change the password. And I don't panic because I know they will never enter my system because I turn on MFA. Come back to what is questioned earlier. What is MFA? MFA is multi-factor authentication. Sometimes you also heard about it as 2FA, two-factor authentication. Somehow, if you are going to the banking industry, also hear about token. Whatever the name is, basically multi-factor authentication means it's an extra information, an extra layer that you have to know, that you have to have before you are able to enter a service. So if typically to enter a service you have username and password, then MFA means the additional one. So this additional one can be token, like a random number, like 6 digits normally, or your biometric fingerprint, or your face, right? So like for your phone, for example, if you activate your PIN and then you also activate your face recognition, it also means that you're already activating multi-factor authentication. So basically, again, MFA is something extra that is beyond username and password. Whatever the form is, it doesn't matter. It's just an extra layer. So the way I do this is normally I talk about house. I'm not talking about a typical house or apartment here in Netherlands, but I typically talk about house in Indonesia, especially those that are in complex. Somehow, when we have house in Indonesia, and when people wants to come to our place, right, the first thing that they have to do is they need to report to a security guard in front of the complex. Yes? Who do you want to meet? What are you doing here? And that kind of stuff, right? And then you enter the complex, and then they will see a very tall, how do you call it? Pagar. Suddenly I forgot the English name. And then after that, you also have a very scary dog to secure a house. And then you have a CCTV. And then you have an alarm. And then you have a key to your place. But then, when we talk about our digital life, where most our money now is online, by the way, in e-wallet or in electronic bank, we always said, username and password is enough. Why do I need this MFA, this extra thing? It's just annoying. It's just troublesome. But then when it comes to house, you have multiple layers. Again, the lock, the key, CCTV. It's the same with digital life. So if you consider your digital life and the main thing of your key is your username and password, MFA is your extra layers. So again, MFA is there to actually to give you extra protection, not to annoy you, or it's supposed to be. Okay? So because of that,
I just want to
we are
add, Pak
Oh, yeah,
Ferry,
sure. Yeah.
we still have approximately 6 minutes.
All right, cool.
And there's also some questions on the chat.
All right. Then just a quick one. So we as a company, what we are trying to do right now is try to help especially small and medium businesses, because like I said, either you don't have the expertise or most of the SMBs doesn't have the expertise. And some of what I mentioned earlier, you have to really put that in enforcement, right? If a bigger company can afford what we call as mobile device management to make sure that all your devices are secured, most of small, medium businesses cannot do that. And sometimes the solution is very easy. As long as we can monitor them, actually we can just pick up a phone, hey, your device is not up to date. So we can force people, we can monitor people. And that's the reason why the security platform that we are building right now, and it's also already used, by the way, we are building it with a small businesses NGO mindset in mind. Because if you look into the tools in the market, yeah, there are plenty of them in the market. As long as you have the money, sure, go for it. They are more advanced, but sometimes like typewriter, right? Sometimes you just need notepad, but you are forced to buy Microsoft Word, for example. So if you can just buy Notepad with a more affordable and it's enough for you, and for most small medium businesses also enough for them, then why do we need to buy something more expensive? So this is also something that we try to develop ourselves, and this is where we are pivoting right now from advisory, but also towards a security platform. But then one thing that I want to emphasize in this call is 100% Indonesia. Not just because of me, but all the team members are Indonesians. So they are the one who developed this. They are in Indonesia. Some of them are in Surabaya, Sumedang, Lembang, Jakarta. So they are everywhere. And then we also would like to bring this security platform, hopefully this year, especially in Asia and Middle East. These are the dates that we are going to participate in these conferences, because we believe that it's time for security solution is acceptable for smaller and medium businesses. And with this platform, we also combined it with expertise, human expertise behind it. All right. So I hope to see you all as well in some of these locations. I know the IDN Globals are everywhere. So if any of you have time during this period, I hope I can see you there. And last but not least, because at least me, I'm not an expert in encryption, especially for password. So our company decided to collaborate with a company called HeyLogin. So HeyLogin is basically a password manager without a master password. And then I will show you why. Me personally and my team, we've tested so many password managers. I personally use password managers, I think, already for 8 years now. Whether it's LastPass, I've used it, 1Password, Keeper, Dashlane. Last one that I use is Bitwarden. Until last year, I found this. They are I mean, the product was created by a German doctor in encryption, and the whole team is very German, by the way. So they thought that as long as they conquer Germany and German-speaking countries, they are fine. So 2 months ago, I said, "Hey guys, your product is so great, and it will help a lot of people to use Password Manager. Please allow us to bring this product also to Asia, to Middle East, and to other countries which are non-German speaking." And then because their support is always in Germany, it's like, okay, we'll let us be your support team as well, in English or in local language that we have support with. The reason being, I trust them. Apart from I have talked to the founder directly. The ease of use is what they always have in mind. So compared to others, I believe they are the most easy to use. Then I will show you a bit later. And then in the past, when you talk about MFA, you always have a different product to use. They already embed the MFA as well, so you don't need to worry about it. And the most important thing is it's hardware based. So it means that all accounts is protected on the hardware level, whether it's your phone, whether it's your Apple Watch, whether it's a YubiKey, whether it's a biometric on your laptop. It's no longer a master password, because most of the time, password manager means that you let's say you have 100 accounts, then you have a 100 password. You still need to remember one password, which is very long, right? So with them, no. And that's also, I think, what can help more people use password manager instead of not doing it. And of course, I have to say this out loud again. It is made and hosted in Germany, which also means you know how paranoid sometimes they are with security and privacy. So I love them about that. Although sometimes I talk to aliens because they always know, oh, Ferry, the best operating system is Linux. Okay, fine. I'm not going there, right? But yeah, it is made and hosted in Germany. They always focus on Germany, and they're already certified. So let me give you a small demo how it looks like. And by the way, this demo is live. It's not something that I prepare or use in the demo environment. This is live. So whatever you see is something that I see every day. So whatever you see, please don't share it outside as well. All right. So here we go. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Right. All right. So by the way, since I mentioned earlier that all our team are actually in Indonesians, most of them are Indonesians, based in Indonesia. Of course, I need to manage them every single day. Yes. So to manage from an HR point of view, we use a service called a remote.com. Maybe many of you knows about them. So this is the area that I always go to, which is employeeremote.com. Can you see? There's a welcome back. And this is the part that the live demo would look like. And this is how a password manager can be currently. And I hope by showing this to you, you won't think that password manager is a hassle anymore. All right. So for this one, the account that I use is contact@feha.io because that's the main email address of the company. So this logo means that because it is already protected in HeyLogin, it's already recorded in HeyLogin, then it will show, yeah, you have an account, contact@feha.io. If I have a multiple account, they will list. So which one that you want to log in. So because it's only one, I click. You see, there's a connection between my browser. There is a key. And the thing that I will do, I'm going to take my phone and I will say, allow. And I don't do anything. So the numbers that you see, that's the MFA. Because it's embedded in Hey Login, then I don't need to type. I don't need to open my phone to check what is the number and then key in. It's automatically entered by Hey Login. And then people will say, yeah, but Ferry, then you rely on Hey Login. How secure it is? Don't you think the 2FA or the MFA is, the idea is to have a separate service? No, because the second MFA I have is my phone. Remember? So I have my phone. As long as my phone is there, that's my MFA. Then the question is always, yeah, but Ferry, what if you got a phishing link? What if you end up clicking a link? And guess what? I've been a victim as well, right? As much as I always survive without getting a phishing, yes, sometimes I do get phishing and then I click the link. But because of that, if I press a fake login page, there is no Hey Login. So it knows. Do not bother Ferry on his phone because this is not right. So yeah, I can also be a victim. You can also be a victim, but hopefully by using Password Manager, and especially if this is something that you always use, the service, right? You know for sure when you try to log into that service, there is no logo of any of Password Manager, not just Hey Login, by the way. It will stop you. Oh, there is no login. So this is definitely not the right website. So I guess I close my presentation there and the demo. And the reason why I want to show you this, and again, I'm not trying to sell a Hey Login here. Hopefully, by showing you a live demo like that, it gives you an idea that nowadays, Password Manager can be as convenient as it can be, not as annoying that you can think of. Whether you have your password, no matter how long they are, how secure they are, how complex they are, plus if you have an MFA, it can be used, it can be managed by that Password Manager. So now I'm open to any question, please.
Wow, I'm flabbergasted indeed. But also what it can affect our business. So it's very, very informative, very inspiring as well for all of us, I think. We are going through a little bit over time. Maybe we can open the platform just for one or two questions. I see some questions already on the chat, but if somebody can open their audio, please do it and have a direct conversation and interaction with Pak Ferry.
Hi, Pak Ferry. Emilio here from Mentor, Turkey.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
Thank you, Pak Ferry, for the presentation. Very eye-opener, yeah, with regards to the cyber hygiene. Just my question, with regards to data transactions, when it comes to dealing with other party, for example, in closed community in my field, right, in export and import, I'm dealing directly with airlines and then with other forwarders as well, with custom brokers. And most of the time, there is a requirements for us to exchange sensitive data like VAT and EORI, right? So I'm just thinking like, okay, in this case, just like the former question from other audience as well, with regards to your suggestion to not working together with someone that you don't trust, right? But that doesn't give us the business. That's the quick question, right? Sometimes you just have to work with other party that is not within your community or within your closed loop community, for example, or secure community. But it's just like needing not just cyber hygiene from the perspective of personal cyber hygiene, but when it comes to collective that requires us to protect one another, sometimes it's just like a struggling to deal with that because I was told that when it comes to VAT, EIN number in US or maybe EURI is something that can lead us to like identity theft. No, I don't know,
I know.
if you're fully aware about this, but it just sometimes pops up in my mind about this awareness. Yeah. Thanks.
I know.
Not really a
I know.
question, but it's just like, okay, this cyber hygiene is really eye opener. Okay, how do I assess myself? Thank you, Pak Ferry.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Emilio. So I think you are right, and the other, I think Pak Aryo is also correct in the sense that, again, we have to continue our life with what we have. If the other party doesn't do this, they just do it. Sure, we have to work with them, because if not, we are not getting our business or we are not moving forward. Yes. But the whole idea of this sharing is, if we still can limit the impact, let's do it. We cannot, and this is also tough for me to say, because at the end of the day, we want everybody to think like how we think, to think securely. But that's just the reality. You won't get everybody on the same boat. But then, if we can limit the impact, why not? So, like I said, at the end of the day, I know for sure people will misuse my data. Every week, I always see in the dark web that someone is misusing my account. My only message is, have I done to the extent that I know that if someone knows about it, if someone says something is break, can I still continue with my life or not? Sure, I haven't been a victim of, let's say, identity fraud. But again, one thing that I always keep in mind is, okay, if something happened to my data, have I done as much as I can? I'm not going to blame others, to limit the negative impact that I can get if something happened to that information. Of course, it's my job, it's government's job, it's organizations, how do you call it, associations' job to kind of like, okay, dear members, let's be more secure, and sure, but it will take time. The whole premise of this discussion today is at least what we can do, either as a person, either as a professional, or as a business owner, how we can limit the impact if something happened to our business. And that's it. And please don't get the whole message wrong, but I never will say completely stop doing business with them. If you have to share your identity with them, sure, fine, share it, because if not, you cannot run your business. But is there a way to protect your information? Like, for example, okay, if there is an option sending it through WhatsApp first and then also email, yeah, choose email. If there is an option to, if you are allowed to use a watermark, then use it. So basically, that's the main message I want to share. I hope that set the right tone, Mr. Emilio.
Thank you, Pak Ferry. Would somebody else want to give a question to Pak Ferry?
By the way, there's one question. Just a suggestion. Why don't you stop by Oman during your travel to the Middle East?
No,
I was invited.
because then we will miss him. We will miss him in the Netherlands.
I was invited, so what can I say? So unless someone invite me from
Ibu
Oman,
Devi,
sure.
hereby you can invite Pak Ferry to Oman.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Sorry, Wati.
Okay. Let me see. This is the last chance because Emma gave me the time to 2 minutes. But if everybody is already content with everything what has been said, and
can I answer 2 questions? I think it's very important.
Okay, go ahead.
One is from Pak Aryo, and then another one is from Bu Betty, and then after that we can stop. So from Aryo, Pak Aryo is like, how does an organization incorporate simple and applicable these measures for non-technical, especially if the CEO is unaware? Yeah, to be very honest, it's something that I also struggle every day, Pak Aryo. I'm not going to fool myself on that one. And that's also the reason why we try to build this solution in the first place, right? As much as we like to have this discussion every single day with so many business owners, people will forget. People will believe, oh, this is not my job. This is IT person's job, right? But we know for sure that human interaction is not enough. You need to have a technology to support you, to monitor it, I call it to enforce it, that it is being followed. And that's the reason why we built this in the first place. Is not trying to be a police, but at least we know going forward that, let's say if your organization have our tool, it can tell you, oh, what this laptop is not up to date. You can just call Wati. I see in my screen that your laptop is not up to date. Please update. Or, hey, Wati, I see your email is leaked somewhere. Please. So all this is just to help the organizations to monitor all of this, to enforce these kind of measures without really taking a lot of time and especially money. And Bu Betty asked, why still use Chrome? I think it's just a preference, Bu Betty. Some people will still use Chrome, by the way. Some people believe that Microsoft Edge is better than Chrome. I use everything. I use everything. I use Brave. I use DuckDuckGo. Whatever you want to use, use it. However, do you know that if you use Tor browser and then you don't update your Tor browser, actually that's also a simple backdoor for hacker to enter your laptop? So even though you use Tor browser or Brave, again, if you don't update it, it will end up in the same bucket, right? So whatever you use them, but use them carefully. And in many cases, and this is my last advice, if you are working or supporting many clients at the same time, if possible, use a different profile on your browser. Do not mix your personal work, your personal and your client's work in the same profile of the browser. If it's difficult for you to set the different profile, just use a different browser. So for example, for personal, you use Chrome, but then for your company, you use Microsoft Edge. And then for your, fun stuff, you use Brave or Tor browser, but just separate it. Because again, when you separate it, I know this is very, very IT jargon. There is what we call as sandbox. So whatever happened will stay in that sandbox. It will not spread to other sandbox. So that's all, I think. That's what I have.
Thank you. I see that Ibu Dewi Anggraini has opened her audio. Would you like? There's an arm raised.
Oh, Ibu Sarini.
Ibu Sarini. Yeah. Go ahead, Ibu Sarini. Please open your.
Pak Ferry, I have a question. So IDN Global has this Instagram account, and a while ago it's been hacked. Would you mind just combing through the account, because we have tried asking Instagram to fix it. Apparently it's going nowhere. So we have another second account. So outside of this, maybe if you have time, Mbak Tria can be in touch with you.
Is
Because we have a lot of followers.
Well, how could that be? How could actually an Instagram account be hacked, Pak Ferry? Is it because of the password problem?
Okay.
What?
Let me ask, how many people used that account for
Madria,
admin purpose?
go ahead.
How many people have username and password to that account to
I
upload
personally have no
pictures,
idea,
commenting? So
but
we can
the
start with that.
secretariat knows better. Maybe you
We
can
can start
give.
with that.
Yeah.
So let me be honest, right? For most cases, if you are talking about, oh, my account getting hacked or my account being hacked, most of the time, people actually use the same password, which is breached somewhere. Number two, it is just shared with too many people. That's it. So when you said it's being hacked, it's not necessarily someone is trying to, oh, I really want to disrupt this IDN Global because I hate this organization. No. Most of the time that you are using a similar password that is already breached somewhere, and there are a lot of bots, we call it, that just scan the internet. Let's just use this password and then see which one is hit. And then it hits your account. Oh, I can enter. Then I just lock it off. And whenever you go with that claim to Meta, for example, like it or not, sorry if I have to say it out loud, if you are nobody, they will not do anything about it. So as much as I would like to help you, Bu Sarini, most of the time the answer is not as easy as myself.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would like to round up now, because I just want to very short. Again, thank you so much, Pa Ferry. It has opened up many eyes, I think. But for me, I wrote down a lot like terminology, terms of words like risk assessment and prioritizing, and being aware of the threats, like what kind of business we are. Are we a social entrepreneurs? Are we exporting goods and so forth? Yeah, what can be the impact of our transactions? Second, the basic cybersecurity hygiene as most convenient but also low threshold safety measures that we can do. Furthermore, the data backup, very important, but also regulatory requirements, compliance. I hope in the future that we can have this talk more, but also with government institutions, maybe next to individuals, entrepreneurs, to tackle a better way and understanding about cybersecurity. I think that's
Looking forward.
okay. We keep in touch. Thank you so much
Right.
for IDN Global. I would like to give the floor back to Ibu Amelia Anzelin. Ibu Amelia, yeah. Silakan Ibu.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ferry. This is a very deep conversation and discussion. And this is open my perspective because as a housewife and have a small business, sometimes I ignore about how often I have to change my password or also the install. Sometimes the notification coming to me, I said, oh, it will take time, so I will do later. So maybe after this, I have to more doing often to make everything is more secure. And the last but not least, thank you for today's discussion. Very interesting and very inspiring. Hopefully, there's a lot of information that can be extracted and used as the new understanding for the businesses, people, and the community. In the meantime, because I forget to mention before, I want to introduce the working group entrepreneurship. Working group entrepreneurship is the integral part of the IDN Global that has been formed to help diaspora to sharpen their entrepreneurship skill and connecting diaspora with SMAs in Indonesia and to help them grow their business abroad. As we know, export is the one of the main focus of Indonesian economic program. This working group aims to increase the export opportunity to Indonesian SMEs by the bridge or facilities both parties of Indonesian small medium entrepreneurship with entrepreneur diaspora and also with the potential buyer abroad, and to develop strategy to help entrepreneur diaspora and Indonesian SMEs expand regionally as well as globally. And in connection with the upcoming Trade Expo Indonesia in October, is about 9 until 12 October 2024. We hope that we can participate and becoming the connecting dot for various sectors between suppliers and buyers. Trade Expo Indonesia is the one of the door to get to know more about Indonesian product. And I hope everybody can join the Trade Expo Indonesia in October. For me, I will supervise from the far away because the Timnas of Indonesia will come to Bahrain for football league competition. So I'm not able to come, but we support the Trade Expo Indonesia in Indonesia. Thank you very much for the availability of the speaker, Mr. Iwan Wibisono, Mrs. Ani, Mr. Ferry, Mrs. Devi, Mrs. Monique, Mrs. Emma, and Mrs. Wati, and the participants who have attended today. We apologize for any shortcomings. On behalf of IDN Global, thank you, and see you in the next meeting. Salam 24 jam. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you,
Waalaikumsalam.
everybody.